Hello, everyone. We'll be going to the election results in Wisconsin shortly.
No, please.
For now, let's go to Russ.
All right, let's chat about the NFL because they have another interesting scenario.
Here's the exit polls.
San Francisco 49ers have a guy on the COVID list that was announced today, a wide receiver, and my screen just jumped off, Kendrick Bourne. So now they have, besides him, 13 players on the injured list. So basically, when and if they play tomorrow night, and we'll get into that in a minute, they would only have one player on the field that played in the NFC Championship game this past season, one. And it's not because they traded them all, and it's not because – so you do have to wonder at some point when the NFL has to look at their league and say, okay, competitive balance is getting really messed up here. We should do something. Now, just from a standpoint of this guy has announced that he's COVID positive and they shut down the training facility for today, how are they playing tomorrow night? How in any world, planet, could they ever justify, and they're going to try, how are they playing this game tomorrow night against the Packers, honestly?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, football is so tricky in this COVID era. I mean,
well, it's one thing to sequester the player in question,
right?
But as we've seen with other teams like the Bills, where they all congregate in the same place by position to work video, for the next game. Well, 3 of the Bills' tight ends caught COVID because one guy had it, and then the other guys in the same room got it. And luckily, one guy was with his wife at the hospital they're having their first child, so he was away from them. But if this guy is with all the wide receivers, then all the wide receivers are probably, in danger of being positive. So I don't know what to say other than the Raiders, the same thing with their offensive line. They were all exposed. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they could move the game to Sunday, but then they're clearing their schedule of a Thursday night game, and they want that Thursday night game.
Now, it says here a 49ers player tested positive. Oh, that was Tuesday. Well, the Packers, I forget today's even Wednesday for obvious reasons. The Packers, though, also had a player test positive, but that was Sunday, and so they have figured their stuff out. But, yeah, I think Mike's right. I think they're going to push this to the limit because they don't want to lose another televised game. But if the sport has any integrity, they're going to have to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're going to absolutely have to. I mean, if the sport has any integrity, I guess is the big word right there. But
it is a big word.
I mean, that's a big little sentence you threw in front of that one.
I don't know if you heard about this, Russ, but there has been some sort of proposal. If there are teams that can't play games that can't be made up, they're talking about expanding the playoffs even further to 16 teams. So what they're saying is we'll make up the money that we lose in regular season games by playing playoff games that have no business being
right.
played.
So then I go back to, when do you look at a sport and say they've lost their competitive balance? At least the NHL didn't do that. MLB, it was teetering, but I think in the end they got it back.
Right.
These guys are on the edge of losing it.
Well, I mean, come on. We've always known that the NFL are high-priced whores. That's what they are. They'll do anything for money. And I think that, what's been going. I mean, don't get me wrong. Right now they're the only sport going. So, to satisfy my sports Jones, I'm watching games on Sunday, but not at the cost of, what is potentially going on with some of these teams.
Yeah, tomorrow night you're going to be watching repeats of the Equalizer.
Yeah, well, hey, I've got all 4 seasons right here.
I mean, I think all the playoffs in all the sports are going to be a little bit different. I mean, obviously, so I mean, I still don't think 16 teams is crazy in the NFL, but all the playoffs, they have to. It's just
think about it. If they have 16 teams, it's going to be like Wild Card Tuesday. Like, what are you doing?
It's already bad enough that the Eagles and the Cowboys are like both 2 games under 500 battling for first place.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to win the division with like 6 wins.
Yeah, they're going to be 6-9-1.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
Let's get into this. We got some stuff to talk about.
Let's do it.
All right. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, November 4th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I officially request a recount.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I am still tired.
I'm Eklund, and I'm exhausted and it just, I mean, not to talk about what you have going on in the election, but you know what I mean? The funny thing about it is that, I've got my wife and son here and my daughter calling from college, and everybody is like freaking out. Like, and I'm trying, makes me have to be the positive guy. I'm like, hey, this will probably work out fine. Everything's cool, And I'm like, stressed out of my mind too. But I'm like, but everybody around me is freaking out the whole time. So it's funny. Anyway,
just being a human being on this earth, you lost sleep last night. Doesn't matter who you are.
I mean,
but the worst thing about it is that I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning for no reason because right. So
I bailed at 12:30. I was smart.
I think I was up at 2. I woke up again at 4. I mean, every time you wake up, you check and you get sucked in again. I'd wake up and check and get sucked in again.
Actually, so here's how I got woken up. This is great. So my best friend texted me, I want to say about 5:30, and my phone was on the bed and it slid under a part of my body, and all of a sudden I felt it buzz.
Nice.
So then I look at the phone and I'm like, oh, they won Wisconsin. Okay.
Well,
and then I go back to
the thing that I've done before, which is like when you're really tired and you're reading your phone in bed and you drop your phone on your face because you fall asleep. You ever done that?
But here's
I've
the
done that many times, like more times than I can count to remember.
Here's the most annoying thing, and then we'll get off of this.
Yeah.
The one thing I couldn't stand last night was a particular state was at like 94% of the ballots counted, and that was at about 9:30. And at 3 a.m. when I finally, or 2:30 a.m. when I finally, it was still at 94%. They hadn't counted the last 6%. I mean, what the hell's going on?
I know. Every state's its own state. That's the wonder of America, right? Everybody can do it their own way.
It is the wonder.
All right, let's get into this. We're also joined, of course, by the lovely and talented Jan Levine. All right, so let's start off with
lovely and talented. Nice.
Yes, let's start off with some rumors.
By the way, just to complete the loop, I was up till 12:30. The dog woke me up at 6, and we had CNN on anyways. Oh, I woke up exactly the same way I fell asleep with TV on. Probably
you're having nightmares involving Jonathan King, but okay.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. I know way too many county names in Michigan now.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Let's But you know what? I've been working the last couple of days because trying to keep myself from getting sucked into this thing. I've been really calling around a lot to try to find out if anyone's going to sign any of these free agents, or not, and if any trades are going to be made. And finally, yesterday afternoon, I got some news that was interesting that involved two guys that seemed to be connected, which I didn't realize were connected, and that would be Mike Hoffman and Johnny Gaudreau. And I didn't really put them together ever as being connected, but a couple people told me that they possibly were. And it sounds like Gaudreau and some of his friends, remember he's from the area where Russ and I are. Some of the people around Gaudreau are really starting to sound as if he's gone, like he's not going to play another game with the Calgary Flames this year, and that's surprising, in a lot of ways. I mean, just based on everything,
that would surprise me.
It is surprising, but these are people that are close to him. It's not coming from Johnny himself or anything like that, but it's coming from people who are like saying, people who I know talk to him, he must have a feeling that this is going to happen, right? So that made me make a couple calls and quickly found out that the Montreal Canadiens have talked to the Calgary Flames about Johnny Gaudreau very seriously the last couple of days. And also, while I was on the phone with Canadiens, they said they had also talked to Mike Hoffman about a one-year deal. So two guys that, are both scorers. It's kind of like the Taylor Hall scenario where you have, for Hoffman, it's like you go find a team where you're going to be on the top power play, you're going to be on the top scoring, you're going to be a top scoring option. If you have 1 year, going to sign a 1 year deal, you might as well do that. Now, Hoffman has been waiting, as we talked before, for the Vancouver Canucks to move some space so he could sign there for a multi-year deal. And I asked about it. Do you think it's possible? I asked another agent connected in a really backwards way, but connected. And I said, do you think it's possible he signs a 1 year deal with Vancouver in the meantime? And they said, no, this has to be it's like a 3 year deal or not at all. That basically, if they're going to clear space, they're going to clear space for the long haul, not just for 1 year for him. So then I went, and I started, looking around at Gaudreau and other teams that might have interest. And I'd updated the rumor chart, and I can bring some of that up too. And I found that that there's some interesting Gaudreau out there. We knew there was. I mean, we knew the Flyers will always be looking around this if it's available. And I think that they've more turned towards Patrick Laine as that sort of outside chance type guy than Johnny Gaudreau. But it's always possible. So I'll bring up the chart so we can look at other teams. But Gaudreau leaving Calgary is it could change the balance of power a lot in that division in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that go ahead, Mike. What do you have?
Well, no, I was just going to say that it all depends on what the return that Calgary gets for him. I mean, if we're talking about not futures, but young players and a first round pick or something like that, then I think Calgary takes a step back, and that's sort of I don't think the direction that they want to go, because what was the point of signing Markstrom to a 6-year contract other than to compete in the Pacific Division? So I would think it would have to be some sort of 1-for-1 or 2-for-2 type of deal, and maybe that's possible because cap space is not common out there, and it'd probably be money in, money out for
for sure not common. And I think the thinking is, Gaudreau has really let them down in the playoffs, and they really have this feeling, and I know we have Randy in the chat room probably who's here who always talks about this, and
really it's all on Gaudreau. There's nobody else that ever let them down in the playoffs.
Right. But I think Randy, you have he's a guy out in Calgary who we've known forever, and I think he said before that he feels like this is it for Johnny Gaudreau too. I believe he'll try, I'm sure, but and I trust him on that thought, because it feels as if there is something to this, and it is not like you said. This is a team that's trying to compete for sure. They go out and they got the one issue that they have had problems with since how far back do you want to go for Calgary goaltending, right? When was the last great Calgary goalie that they had? Kiprusoff. Yeah, that's Kiprusoff was geez, were my kids alive then? I don't even know. It was a while ago.
They took him to a cup.
Yeah, and but you're talking what, 2004?
Yep.
So this is 16 years ago. So no, the answer is no. My one kid was alive.
They got entangled with Mike Smith and many others.
Right. So my other only one of my children are alive. Gaudreau also has interest from the Devils, which we've heard before, and I think that some of that is our people. I've always been hesitant about Devils with Gaudreau because people just put this connection that he's from New Jersey, and like Russ, there's two different New Jerseys.
Oh yeah. Gaudreau's
really not from the Devils, New Jersey.
No.
That's like where just like Van Riemsdyk is not from the Flyers, New Jersey.
D'Angelo and Gaudreau are from the different part of New Jersey than where the Devils are.
Yeah, South Jersey and North Jersey are two very different cultures, because one is a suburb of New York and one is a suburb of Philadelphia.
Right.
So, very, very different. And Central Jersey, somewhere in the around Trenton, people don't know who to root for, but that's about it.
I would say Bordentown.
Just drove through Trenton the other day, by the way. If you're in this area, which I know you Russ are, and you Jan are, something fun to do right now that you can actually do in the COVID world. Just I did this yesterday with my son early in the morning because he was really nervous about the election and everything like that, and nerves aren't greatest for him, so he loves animals. The Great Adventure Safari is open. The drive-through Safari, the Great Adventure, it's fun.
But that's not Trenton. That's
Central.
It's Jackson.
Right.
Jackson, New Jersey. So anyway, the Flyers, of course, are also on the chart with Gaudreau, but right now I've got the Canadians at 35%.
Yeah, the Flyers can't.
The question is, as Mike said, what are they going to move from? They're in cap constraints right now.
Right.
Look, they'd probably love to move Jonathan Drouin, but if I'm Calgary, I'm really not wanting to part of Drouin, especially taking off $5.5 million for an extended period of time, right? So they need to free up salary, but provide enough of a return, right? And we talked about Gaudreau and Monahan a ton after the playoffs or during the playoffs, right? That just like Minnesota, Calgary, as Randy has said, probably wants a culture change, right? And what does that culture change entail? They've gone to the well a couple times with these guys, including Elias Lindholm, who I think is the one they'll probably keep around. And probably they've been looking to move Gaudreau and Monahan, but either A, they haven't found a taker, or B, they haven't found somebody willing to pay what they think is fair enough value to be able to move him, because they're not just going to give him away, especially now. Look, maybe they would want to move him and sign Hoffman. I don't think that being an option, but If you move him and don't get enough back, you've now severely impacted your team during the regular season.
Right.
Yeah.
I like Tom Grady for this statement, which is absolutely perfectly true. And for those of you listening, he says Eck is dead on.
We should basically memorialize that in bronze because it's so rare.
You all should have to write that 100 times on the blackboard.
There's a fine line between dead on and dead wrong, though. There is.
Yeah, just add a W-R and a G. There you go.
Oh, man. Wow. That's so 2009 of you, Mike. All right, here we go. So, Gaudreau. Now, and then jump on to Hoffman for a second. Now, Hoffman, Montreal again. Montreal is a team that has the ability, has some cap space. They have the ability to do something like this. And
it will be much easier to get Hoffman. Obviously, all you're going to do is spend money.
But all you have to do is spend money. Now, you can get Hoffman to go there for 1 year. There's been a lot of talk around Hoffman with Nashville. I know the Predators fans are all into this. They all think that Hoffman's going to Nashville. And I've just been told flat out, and Kevin agrees with me on this, and we've talked about this as well. And Kevin's connections are as good as anyone's in Nashville, better than mine. That this is not the way the Predators are looking. They're not. Hoffman is not.
They shouldn't be. He'll go from 30 goals to 19 goals there.
Yeah, and also he's a streaky scorer, which is something that they are afraid of. I mean, they are terrified of because they have filled up David Poile's team with streaky scorers. There's no way about it.
And it's inaccurate to say that Montreal has got cap room because they don't. They're right up against it. I mean, after signing Petrie, after signing Edmondson, they're less than $1 million under the cap. So they would have to move somebody out like a Tatar or to sign Hoffman, and that's easier said than done because Tatar is making almost $5 million. So probably a trade makes more sense for them because they'd be moving somebody out. But a guy like Drouin has 3 years left, and who the hell would touch him with a 10-foot pole right now?
They're not doing that.
No, I mean, they're not doing that. This is not a good fit. But there are teams that would take Drouin in certain situations.
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah.
He's still not he still puts up points. He just doesn't put up the kind of points. And we've had this discussion many times here on the Let's Defend Drouin Hour. But it's absolutely true.
Look, I think Tampa, if they could get rid of Tyler Johnson, would take Drouin back.
I don't know about that. I mean,
for that savings, I think.
Wait, hold on. You're saving one extra year on Johnson, but Drouin's making more money than Johnson is right now from an AAV perspective.
How much more?
5 versus 5 million.
500,000.
And Drouin hasn't done anything the last couple of years to warrant a $5.5 million salary.
They'd still be saving money, and he's faster these days.
Wait. They're saving money in 4 years, not now.
Right.
Still got to save it.
Right.
But you're not saving now, which is where they have the problem.
Also along the lines of and I'm going to move along because we're going to get to are you better than you were 4 years ago for the Metro division. So I wanted to finish this up in the next 5 minutes or 6 minutes or so with rumors. But is Sammy Vatanen, okay, who is another name who we have talked about a lot. He really wants to go someplace, significant and wants to get a 3-year deal. I was told he's waiting on
getting 3 years.
He's waiting on a team to clear space. That doesn't look like it's going to happen the way he wants to. And from what I've been told, he's been talking to New Jersey about a 1-year deal. That makes sense for him. It's a simple spot. He was there. He was in New Jersey, right? So he already has a place there. You might see that in some of these players. I don't think Hoffman can go back to Florida as easily as Vatanen could go back to New Jersey, from what I understand.
Yeah, the other thing I'm also thinking, because of the way you guys matched that up as far as with Drouin, I'm sure there would be some money retained because I'm sure.
Money retained.
Yeah. But anyhow, getting back to this, I don't know why Vatanen would do it. Why would he sign a 1-year deal with New Jersey with no chance or very little chance of making the playoff?
If there's nothing else out there, what you want to do is you want to get yourself, Taylor Hall kind of led the way with this. You want to put yourself in next year's not a great free agent year, and you want to put yourself in a position where you have a good season this year. And then next year where everybody has money again and we're all going to games and it's kumbaya.
So get paid in a mediocre market rather than making half your salary with a chance to win. That's what you're saying. I think only Taylor Hall did that. I don't think Vatanen's going to do that.
Well, the other thing about that is listen, he still has a place there. There's a lot of inconvenience here. This is a shortened season. Who knows what's going to happen. If you're going to get something signed and it's going to be a 1-year deal, why not go back to where you were to just
You're saying this is a good proximity signing. Great.
It's a convenience signing for Vatanen. He gets to play power play,
right? It's a place he's been before.
But this is a situation though where Vatanen is signing with New Jersey, who will trade him at the deadline.
Again, I thought about that too, Mike.
Right, they will because
the second year it will be a trade rumor, trade bait. from
so
the Devils.
He's gonna have to get like a no trade clause so he can control where he goes, because New Jersey is gonna move him at the deadline for
I don't
an
think he's going to want that. I think this is the benefit of this. Okay, you have a shortened season, so you're not going to start for a while. You don't have to look for a new home, through the holidays or anything like that. Go sign with the Devils, knowing full well that eventually, like you say, Russ, you want to play in the playoffs, right? Because that's where you can build up your value. You're going to get traded to a playoff team, right. So you get to do.
Well, here's the question: how much do you think he's getting from New Jersey, though?
How much? 3.5
kind of salary.
3.5.
Right.
Okay. Devils have plenty of space. But
I know that. Right. Right. The question is, if it's a money, right? He's going there for money, right? If he wanted to go to a contender, he would take a lesser contract for the year on a shot to try to win. Look, guys in the chat room said, "Look, I would like the Rangers to have him. I think he'd be perfect on the opposite side of Trouba, but they don't have the money to be able to fit him in, especially given where some of the awards are going to come up. But if he's going to chase the money, then Jersey or Detroit and places like that are where he's going to go if it's solely a money issue. But if he was contending, then he would go somewhere where he get a 1-year deal and boast his value on a contender.
I mean, go to Montreal for 2.5. At least they could be a playoff team.
I mean, a place that would make more sense for him, because he was in Southern California for a long time, is L.A., because they got tons of
right. But that's money.
Right.
You're not going there to contend. That's just the money. You're going there because of the money.
Yeah, and if you're going to a non-contender, and the Devils, you guys don't think they're as a possibility of being a contender at all. I'm not as dark as you guys are on them, because they were the third best team in the Eastern Conference from February on last year.
Oh my God!
I think we've all said they'll be better. They'll be better. They're going to make the playoffs.
Right, but like you said, so let's assume they're not a playoff team, and let's just do that. And you're not going to go 3,000 miles for like maybe playing 4 months of hockey. Why would you do that? Like, I think that if you're Vatanen, you'd rather just stay. Also, the other thing is the travel in general. Playing for a New York Metro team is by far the least travel in the NHL. And this year, that because you have basically all these extra home games. So I think that the concept is there for Vatanen. But Richard brings up something kind of interesting in the chat room about this, and I think this is a really worthy point. Richard Petrosky says Vatanen staying healthy with a condensed schedule sketchy. I agree with that.
That's true.
That's a big point, and that's why I don't think the money's going to be as high as we think it's going to be, because he's going to have to say basically they're going to say to him, listen, we need you, you need us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody talking in the chat room to buy out Brendan Smith, you only saved $1.5 million. Right. It's only slightly more than if you buried him in the minors and he passed the waivers. There's not enough of an impact. You're still stuck with $2.78 million of dead cap space if you buy him out. So
actually, Mark Peterson's right, because I just thought of it just the same time I saw him write it. The Boston Bruins,
they have money.
Well, depending on what happens with Chara.
Right. Well, if Chara leaves, he can go right there.
If Chara leaves,
there's logic to that. There's logic to that. It's a high, but will you be on their top power play?
No, but he'll be on the second power play.
It's going to either be Grzelcyk or McAvoy,
because Vatanen's money is made on the power play. Like that's where he's going to earn his next contract, on the power play.
Well, I don't know if he played power play with the Devils. I think it was Butcher that did.
Right, Butcher did.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't
play the number one guy. That's all. Right.
Yeah, but he's definitely going to get more minutes with Devils, right? There's no two ways about that. So
or Subban.
Right. Okay, so last figure I'll throw out before we move on to the other thing is this. Marc-Andre Fleury, okay, who I know that Vegas is sitting there saying, we're good with this. They are okay. They're okay with the option of it, but they're not. It's still not their first choice, I've been told, and they are secretly working behind the scenes to see if they can move him still very, very aggressively, secretly. Honestly, if that's possible.
Well, they're okay with it, as opposed to having to give up a first and a second round pick to trade him.
Right, and they also have to be okay with it to raise any value in this situation. Like they have to be okay. They can't be desperate to trade him, or else that's what happened before. So they're saying that they're okay with it. Makes other teams have to offer something legitimate to get him. And the concept here of the Penguins is very real. Like the Penguins and Marc-Andre Fleury is a very real thing. And that's still if I have him leading in my rumor chart of ending up in Pittsburgh. I still don't think Fleury is going to end up there. Now, what goes back, going to be interesting.
I don't think Pittsburgh will start the season with Marc-Andre Fleury. I think they'll wait until he's at the trade deadline prorated, And at that point, they'll see where Jarry's at and where DeSmith's at. And if they feel like they need an upgrade, then I think they'll do it. I don't think they would do it to start the season.
Well, what I've heard, DeSmith, they don't really want DeSmith to be their second guy right now yet.
Well, then they shouldn't have given him the contract they did because they could have foreseen this happening.
And in a shorter season, you can probably ride Jarry more if you had to.
Absolutely, he's young.
Jarry's their, obviously they're number one, right? So that's obviously.
Yeah. And
so
I don't know how they make it work because Fleury, they don't have the cap room to take on a $7 million cap hit or even half of it.
So let's do some quick hits to go through the rumors again. Some of the other things I didn't write about, but are on the chart. You can check it out. The rumor chart still available. Still the best deal in town. Anthony Duclair, talking to Ottawa. I think that's eventually where he's going. It's going to be less money, but he's going to go back to Ottawa. He thought he could get more than he could. It just makes too much sense for Duclair to play there. You're going to get points. You're going to get minutes. Next year you can come out and if there's money to be spent in the NHL, maybe you come out as like one of the better offensive UFAs. You have a chance here with Anthony. So Ottawa definitely. Corey Perry, Calgary, I've heard, and I've heard that actually like Brady Tkachuk, not Brady Tkachuk, right? The other Tkachuk,
Matthew Tkachuk.
Thank you. I always get the brothers. Matt, you see the picture of them on Halloween? That was pretty hilarious.
I did not see that. No.
Okay, they went as twins from.
They dressed up as stepbrothers as the Will Ferrell and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Kovalchuk's in the news again. Kovalchuk, who I still have,
teams are rushing to get him.
Yeah. I've had him on my.
Rushing or Russian?
I said rushing. I was nice about it.
Nice rumor. A nice pun there. KHL still is on his chart at 10%, which is down 10%, meaning that I'm starting to hear again that this is again Montreal. Like they're going to get somebody to help with the offensively. This is like their third option. Okay,
he's an E4 for playing for Sevastopol. Right. The fourth option, the other place after Kovalchuk would be that Kovalchuk could go besides Montreal would be. I mean, New Jersey's still in the running there as a possibility. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but honestly, the thing is
not there anymore. You should probably put him on the Islanders just for the Lamoriello connection.
Yeah.
No. See, Lou has too many other guys he wants to give minutes to.
Well, can we just touch on this?
Not if Barzal's not there.
Yeah. No, before we do the teams, because the Pulock deal that was signed today.
Yes.
I think Lewis screwed himself because now they only have $3.8 million in cap space. That is not even enough to get Barzal on a bridge deal. I don't know if that, they can go 10% over the cap if somebody tries to sign him to an offer sheet, which isn't going to happen because nobody signs offer sheets. But there has to, if there's a second window here for the because of arbitration, they better use it on somebody because they don't have the room to sign Barzal.
I think they're going to be forced.
Is it possible here that they are daring someone to offer sheet him?
No, I think they're going to use the second buyout, and I think Lou is going to have to do it. And he doesn't want to, but he's going to have to.
Yeah, Komarov probably.
Well, the question is what is Barzal going to get, right? And I think in all of our opinions, Pulock clearly took a team-friendly deal for 2 years, where I really thought he was going to be in the $6+ million range.
Yeah, right.
2 years, granted, it'll be an RFA again at the end of those 2 years, and he figured he'd make it up on the back end.
He's a UFA after.
UFA. So he'll make it up in the back, and maybe they re-sign him for long term. But I mean, look, Lamoriello has painted himself in a corner here based upon some of the contracts that have been given out, because I'm sure he'd much rather prefer to have Pulock for a lot longer than the 2 years when he becomes a UFA. You'd love to buy out at least one of those UFA years. He just felt that he couldn't afford it. But I think Barzal's getting at least $7 million.
No, I agree. And the risk here, Pulock got a good deal for himself. The risk is all on the Islanders because now, new arena or not, there's nothing tethering him to that franchise when he's a UFA to test the market, and he's going to be a young guy testing the market. The Islanders are risking it here. And, they lost Evan Taves for nothing. Pulock could be going right down that same highway.
Barzal gets $7 million. Sorry, Mike. If Barzal gets $7 million, right now they're $3.9 million under the cap. I'm thinking Barzal 2 years, $7 million, let's say.
Yeah.
So that puts him in that range, puts him $3 million above the cap. Is buying out one contract going to be enough to get them to have enough room to be able to sign him to that kind of a contract?
All I know is that Andrew Ladd better watch out for Jeff Gillooly at the practice arena.
I mean, this is a move, like the kind of move that Lamoriello does to send a message to Barzal unless he has figured out Barzal already with a buyout type situation and tells him not to worry. So what I haven't gotten, and we'll never know with Lou, but we'll know soon. I mean, but this is one of two ways. It's either he's told Barzal, don't worry about it. I'm going to give him this. I'm going to buy out this guy. I'm going to get you this.
Actually, here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So Pulak, and of course we know that, the Islanders got picks for Taves, but they weren't great. Pulak actually said it was a big loss losing Devin Taves. He actually said that. He's actually telling you it's a bigger loss than the general manager said, really.
Well, I think, it's a player. It's they're tight, obviously. It's a teammate. You don't want to do that. But I think that I don't think Lou had any option on that. I'm still defending Lou on that deal because
and they're putting the pressure on Dobson, and that's fine. I think Dobson can come through. But to say he's going to be as good as Taves in his first real full year now is I don't know that yet.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. All right, let's go to
the problem. I just looked it up. Any contract they buy out, they're not saving a whole heck of a lot of dollars on any of them.
I know.
Largely due to signing bonuses. So Lamoriello is really in a corner here. Even with Pulak accepting a team-friendly deal, they got $3.9 million, have to sign Barzal, and they don't. And even if you buy it, you talk Ladd, let's say Ladd. Mike's talked about it right a lot. Signing bonus.
Same what's the Komarov buyout? Mike was saying.
Komarov, you're not saving a lot of money. He may have to try to buy two of these guys out just to free up enough room to have guys to fit in.
Thomas going to have to include a heavy pick with somebody and trade them. Like he's going to have to give away a first round.
Thomas Hickey goes on LTIR because he had concussion issues.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying they're going to stuff on Robida, Andrew Ladd, and send him to Robida Island, and that opens up the cap space.
I've been to Robida Island. It's nice. I swam with the dolphins there. It's really beautiful. All right.
Yeah, Ladd Island, I think, is just beyond like Robert Moses out on the island.
We're going to get to Andrew Ladd.
Downing Island, Russ.
Speaking of Andrew Ladd,
Randall's Island.
It's right in the middle of the title estuary.
There's no water there, though. He don't want to be there.
Okay, you can take the tram though. There, it's really nice during the day.
Yeah, I heard that.
All right, kids. Okay. Speaking,
you have to be a New Yorker, Mike, to understand.
You do.
I do.
Believe me, there's a lot of things about the.
No, actually, this is kind of funny, but Randall's Island was really undeveloped in the 80s when I was working in a hotel business there. I played softball at Randall's Island, and literally there was nothing. Now there's everything, and like Jansen, because I've driven by it, there's a tram, there's all kinds of entertainment, there's all kinds of food, but it used to just be dirt and nothing. It was like a dump, literally like a dump.
You guys gone to the I don't think it's open now, but did any of you guys before COVID hit, did you guys go to the that giant indoor skiing facility they have up there?
I never got there.
American Dreams. No, I haven't been there yet. I
really want to go.
It's not too far from Giant Stadium.
Yeah, I really want to try it. Second it opens up, I'm going to give it a shot. All right, here we go.
American Dreams is open again. The mall is open. The skiing rink, but the mall is open.
I got to see if the skiing place is open. I want to surprise my wife with that for like a birthday present. All right. Anyway, he's a big skier. Let's go now to Are You Better Off Than You Were 4 years ago? The Metro Division.
I was going to say me or okay, Metro.
I don't think I am. Anyway, here we go. I'm
Carolina. That's a given.
Yeah, I'm much older. All right, here we go. Starting off doing this alphabetically for the sake of it. We're going to start off the Metro Division with the Carolina Hurricanes. Sure. All right, now we're going back to the 2015-16 season here. Remember what happened there. Then, and I'll remind you guys, in the 2015-16 season, they finished 6th in the Metro Division with 86 points. They missed the playoffs, and then that signing, they went out. They went crazy that summer with a really big time signing, bringing in Lee Stepniak, who was signed with who basically was punching his get a free hoagie if you sign with your 12th team thing. And he got that. So they made really no trades. They didn't change any coaches. So they just went into the thing. The 2 draft picks they did in the summer 2016-17. In 2016, they had 2 first-round picks, Jake Bean and Julien Gauthier.
One who's not on the team any longer, and the other one is stuck in the AHL.
Right.
Okay, so the 2000. How are they now? And I'll just tell you what they did in 16-17 for the hell of it. Even though we're kind of talking about going into the season, how you felt. They ended up finishing 7th in the division, didn't make playoffs. So they actually were worse next year.
They're better than they were 4 years ago because A, they don't have Bill Peters as their coach. And B, they have a number 1 center in Aho. I think their goaltending is probably worse than it was then. and I don't even know who the hell their goaltending.
Probably Cam Ward then.
Cam Ward, yeah.
It was Ward.
Yeah, so
I definitely think they're better. I think it's pretty obvious.
I think they're better off now, but they may have the same ownership situation now that they did then, except Tom Brennan will still own a part of the team, but he might not own all of the team. And Carmanos may be back in it. So that's, so ownership wise, they may be close to the same, but I do think they're better now.
So they're going to play Brass Bonanza after every song then.
Right.
And he's going to rename the team the Carolina Vipers.
I mean, I don't think there's any question they're a better team. Look, as we said, you give them a not necessarily even elite or top shelf, but a really, really good goalie. Yeah, they're a clear cup contender right now based upon what they have on that team overall.
Can we just ask a basic question here, Eck? The basic question we have to ask here is, if everybody in the world can see they don't have good enough goaltending, why didn't they do anything about it? Why does Don Waddell not take any heat for it? And how do they continue to move on and go into the next season with the same goaltending?
I'll answer those questions in the order they were received. Okay, number one, why didn't they do anything about it? They tried. They went hard after Marc-Andre Fleury. They thought they had a shot at him, but at the end of the day, they played hardball, which they also did with Robin Lehner at the trade deadline.
How's that working?
How'd that work out?
And that didn't work out well either. So that's your second question. Yeah, Waddell should take a lot of heat for this. I mean, Waddell should take a lot of heat for both of those, honestly. I mean, especially not getting the Lehner thing done. I mean, that was ridiculous, I thought. Yeah.
We all thought the same thing at the time the trade.
Everybody was obvious.
Nobody had a differing opinion, especially when they gave the number one to get Brady Shea, and we're like, wait a minute. Right. Somehow explain to me how the Brady Shea was worth the one, and thank you very much, by the way, as a Ranger fan. But you wouldn't do it to get Robin Lehner, who would have been your clear number one goalie, who you could have signed for 4 more years.
I will tell you why they didn't do it, because they are afraid of Chicago. Carolina and Chicago have had some bad dealings with each other, and getting Robin Lehner, they felt like they've screwed up every trade they've ever made with the Blackhawks. It's funny.
No, I get that, but you have to get over that.
Oh, I totally agree with you, but I think that played into it.
I mean, the Teravainen deal didn't turn out too bad.
Yeah, their goaltending is no better this year.
Were they afraid that James Reimer was going to turn into the reincarnation of Terry Sawchuk or something?
Okay, we're going to move a little quickly because we got a lot of teams. The Columbus Blue Jackets are next up. They're 15-16th record. The Jackets finished dead last in the Metro that year, 8th overall. They missed the playoffs, of course. Their big signing came on August 1st when they signed away from the Philadelphia Flyers, Sam Gagner. They
didn't have to try very hard.
They didn't make any trades or coaches changes during that summer going into that year. They did, however, in 2016 pick up Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is definitely eventually going to be one. Is already now turned into something else. And yet, all that being said, 2016-17 they finished in 3rd in the division, made the playoffs. After which is kind of surprising, lost to the Penguins in the first round in 5 games. This was like this was the kind of the famous year that the Penguins. Oh no, that's the year before. I'll get to that.
At this point, the Blue Jackets still had not won a playoff series,
right?
And since then, they have. Dubois is a legitimate number 1 center. I think the only area of the team that's worse would be the goaltending, but it's not bad. It's just not as good with Bobrovsky at his height as now with Korpisalo and Elvis. But their defense is better. Their forwards are better. Tortorella is one of the best coaches in the league, so they're a better team.
They're a better team, but they're still not at the point where they're going to go super far. They're not.
But given what happened and they lost Panarin, and given the guys that they lost and they've had to rebound, there's clearly some upside potential and some growth that can still happen on this team, even despite losing. Look, they made a great trade in dealing to get Panarin and ended up losing him, right?
But the growth should have happened this offseason. Like, if they were going to sign Hoffman, they should have signed Hoffman. If we look at this team going into this year, they're not much better. I'm not even sure they're better.
This probably more than any other team in the NHL.
For this year, not compared to 4 years ago.
They don't sign free agents and they don't make trades. They really build from within more than any other team, I think, in the league.
Well, they might suffer a little bit from that because everybody's gotten better in the division.
And it felt like they were clearing all this cap space to do something big, which didn't happen.
Well, they ended up signing Domi to a long. They got Domi.
They made that trade.
That's fair.
Right, they signed Koivu on the cheap. figuring he would fill that third line center role.
Yeah, they dumped Ryan Murray on New Jersey.
Right, clearing up $4.6 million there.
Yeah, but Murray wasn't hurting them defensively. It just wasn't,
Look, you got Benstrom, you got Tessier, you have Fleury. They have guys who can come up. Now, granted, I agree with you. If they sign Hoffman, they become a really intriguing team.
Correct. Yeah. Their offense is still around there,
especially having Werenski and Jones as your number one pairing on the blue line in the playoffs. Yeah.
Their offense is still lacking. That's what it is. Okay.
They've got one of the best defenses in the NHL, though, so they're definitely better off than they were.
Moving on 4 years ago, yeah.
Moving on then to the New Jersey Devils. They finished 7th in the Metro in 2015-16 with 84 points. They missed the playoffs. Their big summer signing was nuts. They went out and got Ben Love. They signed Ben Lovejoy to a 3-year, $8 million deal that summer. They made no coaching changes. Their big draft pick was Michael McLeod.
Who's still with them, but he's not what they thought he was.
Not really. Yeah, hasn't really turned into a first-round pick type player.
Well, so just say this. Since then, they've had 2 number 1 overall picks.
Right. They've had 2 number 1 picks since then. You're exactly right. Yeah. Right. And so in 2016-17, they finished even worse. They were last in the Metro in 8th. So they're better off.
But they're no better. They're really no better than back then.
They're better off than they were. Come on.
They're better off roster wise. They're not going to be much better off position wise.
You think
I think they're better. I mean, look, you've added Hischier, you added Hughes. They actually, I think afterwards had added Palmieri in a trade after that season. You added Gusev, you added Andreas Janssen, they added Subban.
So they're going to come in 6th instead of 7th.
I think they're better. I think they're on an upward trajectory.
Okay, but again, upward trajectory. So instead of finishing 7th, they finished 6th. It's 4 years later. I mean, yes, they've had all these players, but they're really not much better. They're not.
Russ, just think of it. In 20 years, they'll be able to finish in 1st.
And we're also counting Blackwood as good as the goaltending back then of Schneider, which he's not at that level yet.
No.
Right. And in hindsight, being 2020, they should have kept the 9th pick and taken Horvat.
I'm ready to make my bold prediction, though, on the New Jersey.
Yeah, I know you're going to be making the playoffs, so we already know that.
You can make your bold prediction about the Devils, just like last offseason, and it's going to fall flat. So go ahead.
This is more than that.
They're doing the Stanley Cup.
No, the Devils will finish ahead of the Washington Capitals in the standings. That's my prediction. Mark my words. It's done. It's done. These are the things
on November 4th at 1:50.
Right. Remember? Yeah. What was the one last year that I nailed you guys all on that you laughed about?
I don't know. Was it
There's too many of them. We've lost track already.
No, but I'm always right. That's the problem.
In your own mind, you're always right. That's the problem.
I am. I'm always right. When I say something, when I go out on the limb like that, I'm right. And I'm going out on the limb with this one. And I'm telling you, that's absolutely happening. All right. The next we have alphabetically the New York Islanders. 2015-16 record. They finished 4th in the Metro. They made the playoffs as a wild card team and upset the Florida Panthers in the first round, like we talked about yesterday. Going on to with the famous famous goal by Johnny Tavares in overtime. Going on to lose to Tampa.
You had to mention that name. Go ahead.
I was going to say they're worse because they don't have John Tavares. End of story. Let's move on.
They lost to Tampa in the second round in 5 games. Their big 2006, so that gave them all kinds of inspiration. They're a playoff team now. They went out and they signed for 7 years and $38.5 million.
Andrew Ladd.
That's correct. Andrew Ladd is the theme of today's show because we just talked about how they're trying desperately to get rid of him now. All right.
4 years later, we know the answer.
2000.
I think 4 years ago we knew the answer.
I know.
They didn't make any coaching changes that summer or any significant trades. Capuano did start the 16-17 season, but was fired in January and was replaced by
Doug Waite.
Doug Waite,
right. Their big 2016 summer draft pick was Kiefer Bellows.
Kiefer
Bellows. Sorry, Kiefer. You say Kiefer, I say Kiefer. Let's go.
My favorite actor is Kiefer Sutherland.
Right. Sorry about that. It's been a long day.
Sorry.
I really want to check what's in that iced tea, Eck.
It's been 48 hours. This is me loopy on sleep deprivation.
My favorite show is 48.
Next, I don't drink, as you guys know. I don't drink alcohol.
No, wait. So hold on. So the Islanders were better off then with their coach having more hair. Clearly, that's a no-brainer. The coach had more hair. No, they're better now. There's no question.
They're better off now. I said for sure they're better off now, right? I mean, they just went to the conference finals. Did we forget that?
No.
Yeah,
No, I mean, I think Trotz coming in Trotz and Lamorello both coming in has dramatically remade that team talent-wise. That team was a talented team when Tavares was there, but
they were.
But you've seen growth out of Bailey since then, even though not everybody likes him, right? You've seen growth from some of the other guys on the roster, but there's not that many guys left from that team right now. That's on the team now.
Really
so,
and how do they look if Barzell holds out?
Here's a, yeah. Well, the Barzell situation is going to be fun to watch, right? What's going on? Anyway, all right. This is an adorable dog, by the way. She's amazing. All right.
Rangers.
They also have Ilya Sorokin coming in, who is going to be exciting. And that if you're an Islanders fan, that this season's, you really want the season to play just for that, in my opinion. I'm really fired about him. All right. The next up, the New York Rangers. 2015-16 season. Do you remember how they did? I'm going to see if you guys could challenge you guys on this one. If you can remember back then.
They lost in the first round to the
Where
Penguins.
did they finish in the division, though?
In the division.
This was an incredibly controversial thing. That's why I bring it up. They finished third in the Metro.
I was going to say third, actually.
And the conference with 101 points. They lost to Pittsburgh in 5 games in the opening round. Remember how they ended up having to play Pittsburgh instead of Florida? You remember this controversial thing? Like on the last game of the season, the Rangers, if the Rangers won, they would end up with Pittsburgh, and if they lost, they would end up with Florida. And remember there was like an offsides that was like that they challenged. Or I'm trying to remember this whole thing. Exactly.
It's not drawing. I'm not remembering.
Something like, I forget, they were playing Boston in this game, I think it was, in the last game of the season, and I'll try to remember exactly, but it's back there. They ended up hurting themselves by winning the last game and ended up getting Pittsburgh, who was just really getting good, and they had a bad season, the Penguins, but they were moving up.
Right.
And they ended up with Penguins where they could have ended up with Florida, giving the Islanders Florida instead. So this was a big thing. Their summer signings that year were Grabner and Jimmy Vesey.
Well, Vesey worked out well. Grabner was good for a little while.
Grabner was fine on the power penalty kill that year. Vesey's not a second-line player. He's a third-line player. But
yes,
they traded, as we talked about 2 days ago. They traded for Zibanejad for Broussard.
Right.
They kept their coaches and all the same. Their best draft pick. They didn't have a draft pick until the 3rd round that summer, and they picked up.
Buchnevich.
Nope, Sean Day in the 3rd round.
Oh, Sean Day, that draft. Buchnevich was before that.
Yeah. And then in 2015-16, they were awesome. They finished first in the Metro and the conference with 103 points.
You mean 16-17.
They won the opening. This is 16-17. Yep. They won the opening round against Montreal in 6, but were upset by Ottawa in 6 games in the second round.
A series they completely threw in the toilet because they should have won that series in 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alain Vigneault with poor deployment of D-men late in the game, and the ever popular shell when you go into the third period and just play at the blue line.
Right. Yeah, I remember that was a very frustrating series, and they were looking pretty good. They were pretty.
But with the
so are they better off now?
Yes,
that year.
Yes, they are.
With a number 1 overall pick in Lafreniere, and Kakko and all the young players, yes, they're better.
They were a 101 point team. They signed. They traded for Zibanejad.
Yeah, and then
2 years later,
they
finished first in the conference. Do you think they're better off now than?
Yeah.
I mean, they only made the playoffs.
So are they better off for the 1 year? Is that what you're looking at? Is this year better than that year?
I mean, it can be interpreted however you want it to.
They started here, they went up, then they went down.
If you're interpreting that this year is going to be better than that year, it won't be. But if you're trying to tell me that they were on a better trajectory then than now, I would disagree.
Right. That's true. I get that. All right. Moving on to the Penguins.
3 more to go.
Pittsburgh Penguins. I'll go fast. Here, Pittsburgh Penguins.
We got time.
Yeah, we're okay. 2015-16, the Penguins finished 2nd in the Metro with 103 points. They won the Stanley Cup in 2015-16. They made no summer signings really that were significant. They made no summer trades. They made no coaching changes. Why would you? You just won the Stanley Cup. Their top draft pick was Philip Gustafson.
Yeah, goalie.
Who they traded.
Yeah, right.
But any draft pick they had, they traded.
And then they actually were 8 points better the next year in 16-17 and went on to win another Stanley Cup. So we're talking about, I don't think it's hard to say that they're better off now than they were then.
No,
they're better off then than they are now.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm saying it's impossible. Like,
it's impossible to beat that.
Yeah, no way.
when you're going back-to-back Stanley Cups. The Philadelphia Flyers, 2015-16, they finished second in the wild card to the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. They lost to the Caps in 6 games. In what was the goalie's name? Gosh, why can't I think of him?
For who?
For the Flyers, who made that the series. It was incredible. Gosh.
No, wait, it's not Robert Esch. It's not.
No, it's a Finnish. The Finnish.
I know
guy.
you're saying him.
No,
it's not Niittymaki.
it's way after Niittymaki.
Neuwirth.
No,
Oh
it's before Neuwirth.
People screaming out there at us right now. This is ridiculous.
It's not Steve Mason.
It's not Mason. No.
No, it's a foreign guy. Oh man. We'll come back to it. We'll figure it out. 2015-16.
Oh, Brizgalov. Brizgalov?
Oh yeah, Ilya Brizgalov. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Brizgalov. Nope.
Was it the Universe?
It was, what did you say?
His nickname was the Universe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it really wasn't his nickname, but it's all right.
It wasn't
Everybody called him
Brizgalov. This guy was a Capital goalie first, then got traded to the Flyers.
Neuwirth.
Neuwirth, thank you. Did you say Neuwirth?
Wait, he said Neuwirth.
I
thought
apologize.
Neuwirth was after that. Okay.
Anyway, like I said, I haven't slept at all. All right, they made no coaching changes. They made no real big summer trades. Their big summer signing was Dale Weiss.
That worked out.
one.
I was not against it. To be fair, I didn't know he was going to drop dead in his NHL career that year.
I wasn't too against it either, and I remember talking to Danny Briere, who played with Weiss in Montreal, and said this is a really smart signing for the Flyers, but nothing.
Well, because he was so good the year before, and then he literally had nothing.
Right. And then their draft pick was their best draft pick that year.
Carter Hart,
second round, 2016 draft. Leading on
they
to
traded up to get.
Yeah.
They got 42nd overall. They got him, I think.
Something like that.
In the second round, right around 42nd. Yep. They then in 2016-17 they went to finish in 6th out of the playoffs. So are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say they are too. I mean, they just won a round in the playoffs. They have Carter Hart. That's basically the big
and
thing.
they're not cursing Alain Vigneault yet.
I'm close. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Finally, the Washington Capitals. In 2015-16, they finished first in the Metro and the league and the universe with 120 points. They were pretty damn good that year. But they lost in the second round to the Penguins, which is what they did during those few years there.
Yep.
They tended to lose the Penguins all the friggin' time, right?
They did.
They didn't make any real big summer signings UFA-wise. They did make one trade, a sneaky little trade on the 24th, where they traded for Lars Ehlers, which was a good little move for them.
That was a good move.
Yeah. Turned out to be
Ehlers played well for them.
Pretty significant move down the line. And then no coaching changes, of course. Their best draft pick that in that draft was Lucas Johansson.
Yeah, who's still with them, but he's not what we thought he was.
Right.
But he'll play, but he's just not going to be very offensive.
He's the disappointing minor league version of his brother.
Right. Right. And then in 2016-17 they again finished first in the Metro and first in the world with 118 points. Again lost to the Penguins in the second round of the playoffs. This time in 7 games. So are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
No.
Nope.
No, at least they won a cup after those two.
Right.
Yeah.
So they reached the apex, and then they lost to Carolina in the first round the next year, and then they basically mailed it in this year. So I will
say this caveat on a limited season with Lundqvist. That could be a real good thing for Lundqvist, and that could be really good for the Capitals.
Now, okay, how will you feel, Russ and Jan, if Lundqvist finds one more great year and he wins a Stanley Cup with the Capitals?
Oh, I feel great for Lundqvist, and I would just snicker at the Rangers because it didn't have to be this way, but they made it this way. So, but I would be happy for Lundqvist.
Now,
so I agree with Russ, but what do you think they could have done differently?
They could have kept him another year.
I don't think
they would have kept him there because they want to play Shesterkin.
Well, that's their choice. That's my point.
So again, I don't think there really was a choice in this matter.
No, there's always a choice.
You want to give Georgiev a contract. Okay, I think it was a Faustian dilemma, and they made the decision the best way they thought.
Okay, but that's a choice. That they made a choice.
Okay. I will be happy.
If they didn't make a choice, he'd still be there.
I will still be cursing out the goalie, the goalie interference in the 2014 Stanley Cup Finals. How's that?
They weren't going to win that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they lost 2 games in
it
double.
Doesn't matter
overtime,
how close they were, Jan.
I never
matter.
Lundqvist carried them. They still could have won that.
He did carry them, and that was why they weren't going to win, because he was carrying them.
I never want to hear any complaints about the Doug Gilmour high stick ever.
Well, I don't bring it up every 30 seconds like you do.
Listen, the Alex Martinez goal, you know what? In a way, that was just.
Oh, and by the way, I was rooting for Gretzky, so I really couldn't care less that he did it.
My arm hurt.
For those of you curious what a Faustian dilemma is,
Look it up.
From the medieval legend of Faust, who made a contract with the devil, exchanging his soul for unlimited knowledge and worldly pleasures. The
They
story
were damned if they do and damned if they didn't on this one. Thanks, Mike. Love you too. You can put that on there.
There you go.
I was just massaging my bicep.
I mean, we always like
You're on a public show. I'm having my fingers do something else right now, but I'm avoiding
I thought you were trying to find your bicep. I didn't realize.
Not every day that Jan throws out medieval metaphors, so I think that we should actually look at that for a second, and enjoy that, because that is something for sure.
I could have said Sophie's choice, but it's really not applicable here either. So
it's actually technically a Faustian bargain, Jan.
Fine.
It's not called a Faustian dilemma, but I get it, and it's close enough. And none of us know. I mean, the first thing I thought of is, was the Faust, the guy who's out now. Anyway, here we go. That's all the time I have for today, guys.
What?
We're done.
I know, but that was just the non sequitur of all non sequiturs.
I know it was the non sequitur of all non sequiturs. Hopefully, you guys get some sleep at some point. If you're following the elections in the U.S., hopefully we have a president before the NHL season starts.
Wait! I got last minute news here.
Go ahead.
Gustav Nyquist had surgery to repair a labrum tear in his shoulder, out 5 to 6 months.
So that goes along with Ben.
They need scoring.
Hello, Mike Hoffman. How quick can you be here?
Ben Bishop for 5 months and Tyler
Sagan also for 5 months. Yep.
Now that's if the season starts in February. That means they'll be back. They'll be back a month into the season at least.
No, 2 months in.
2 months. Well, yeah.
If we start early February, we're not back till April.
Yep. April.
That's biggie right there.
It's definitely time to get Mike Hoffman on speed dial.
Well, you know what? I got to wait till this comes through. It's not on a verified account, but we'll see.
Maybe Kovalchuk.
No, I'm talking about the injury. It's not showing up anywhere else just yet.
No, I'm saying for scoring, Detroit will say.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those who are interested in what the Nyquist theorem is,
okay. Remember, without the buzz,
it's a big thing in science.
It's on the Columbus Blue Jackets site, so I think that's pretty official.
Okay, there we go.
5 to 6 months.
So there you go.
Wait, the one last thing, Ack, before you sign off.
Yeah, sure.
Do we start to think that if other guys start to have these injuries, non-Stanley Cup guys, that they are paying a price for the condensed season?
Yeah,
we'll have to look at that. That's the big question. I'll leave it.
What I'd like to know, Russ, is what I mean. The Blue Jackets season ended in the middle of August. It's now the first week of November, and they're only getting the surgery now. Why?
I think because they probably told them try and rehab it,
right?
And you won't have to get surgery. And then sometimes you have to rehab it to have surgery because it's too weak.
Right. Okay.
True. Good point. All right, that's about it, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you again tomorrow.